The Movie Preview Critic. Informing and entertaining your movie world.
What if I'm not the hero? What if I'm the bad guy?
Many years from now, when film historians and movie fans look back on the first decade of the 21st century, more than likely it'll become known as the age of the adaptation. Yes, there were a ton of shitty, low-cost, highly profitable remakes, and some reboots of previously deceased franchises. But without a doubt, at no time in the 100-plus year legacy of cinema have so many projects been adapted from already existing sources. There are two major motivations for this. First, movies are really expensive to make. Second, there is no absolute guarantee that a movie is going to make any money. Because of these factors, studios and production companies try to stack the box office deck in their favor. The goal is always to get the audience to come to the theater. The only way to do this is to find the advertising Pied Piper element that leads people from their houses to the theater ticket window. Based on previews and advertising for movies nowadays, these elements seem to be the following. First, the stars. There's definitely something to be said for casting a popular actor in a movie. For example, you may have gone to see Hancock because it sounded like a cool story idea, but imagine if the poster changed from this to this. If that was the reality, the movie probably would have been straight to video. Second, the director. Sometimes mentioning the name of the director is a great way to motivate people to check out a flick. This usually means he or she has a good number of hits on their resume and is established in the audience's mind as someone who has a quality vision no matter the material they work with. So when Saving Private Ryan is touted as from the director of Jaws, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Jurassic Park, and Schindler's List, you know it has the potential to be amazing. Third, the story idea. Just hearing a title like 40-Year-Old Virgin makes the audience curious. The final Pied Piper advertising element is the adapted from and based on tagline. And this is the age we live in. Never before have so many different mediums been under siege by Hollywood. Today it's comic books, novels, graphic novels, TV shows, plays, cartoons, and even bands and their music that are up there for grabs. The reason for this is, if a story idea has succeeded with an audience in one medium, then it should transfer over into the movie industry, and hopefully bring that audience along with it. Ever since The Lord of the Rings set the blueprint for trilogy adaptation and made a load of money, there has been an ever-increasing desire for properties that can provide studios with quote-unquote tentpole potential, which basically means that if a studio is releasing 30 movies in a year, the tentpole movie is the one that they're sure is going to make the most money and balance out the losses for the other 29 releases. The tentpole picture is as close to a sure thing as it gets in movie making. It's like getting pocket aces in poker. For every Spider-Man 2 or Revenge of the Sith that a studio releases, they also greenlight ass garbage like Babylon AD and The Love Guru. So while it's every producer's dream to find a tentpole project, it's their wet dream to find a tentpole that has the potential to become sequelized. This decade's adaptations have answered that dream. Lord of the Rings set the standard, 3 highly successful films based on a series of books. That led to 2 more sequels following X-Men's success in 2000. Then, the mega success of Spider-Man 1 and 2 opened the floodgates for a Hollywood carnivorous ravaging of any significant comic book character in existence. Meanwhile, the most successful modern-day book series, Harry Potter, took the Lord of the Rings model to the next level. J.K. Rowling made J.R.R. Tolkien look like a Generation X slacker by not just settling for a pathetic 3-book series, but making it 7. The result? Warner Brothers bought the movie rights and guaranteed themselves a tentpole movie with at least 6 sequels. They can rest easy knowing that every time they release a Harry Potter movie, they're making money. Guaranteed. So everybody's looking for a tentpole property. Now, you could ask, well, why don't they just create their own from scratch? You know, have an original idea? Yeah, they could. And maybe they could strike oil in their own backyard, while scratching off a lottery ticket for a $500 million jackpot. The problem is that Hollywood wants as much of a sure thing as they can get. If something hasn't been tested with the audience before, how do they know it's going to work? And is it worth the risk of investing the money into? Totally original ideas that turn into tentpole properties happen once in a while. 20th Century Fox had it with Star Wars, Warner Brothers did it with The Matrix, and Lionsgate has one with Saw. But original ideas that turn into tentpole franchises are rare. It's way safer for an idea to prove itself in another medium than give it attention. In 1997, if someone would have told a Hollywood producer, hey, why don't you make a movie about an 11-year-old boy who goes to a special magic school to be trained as a wizard, the producer would have said, how about I make a movie about a producer that punches you in the face for pitching a stupid-ass movie idea? In Hollywood, everyone is a skeptic until money convinces them otherwise. With most of the movie rights of major comic books, TV shows, cartoons, novels, and plays optioned or owned by someone in Hwood, good, proven, profitable, worthy, tentpole possible material is an endangered species. Which brings us to Twilight. Written in 2005 by Stephanie Meyer, it's basically about a human teenage girl, Bella Swan, who falls in love with a teenage-looking vampire dude named Edward Cullen. The series has 4 books, with Twilight being the first. Altogether, the series has sold around 17 million copies worldwide, which is pretty impressive. But just to compare, Harry Potter, which has 7 books in the series, has sold about 400 million. So while Twilight isn't as popular as The Boy Wizard, it still has a very strong fan base, made up mostly of young girls. This is important because the last movie to have a strong 10 to 25-year-old female demographic was Titanic, the highest grossing film of all time. Summit Entertainment, the company that owns the movie rights and is hoping to have a hit franchise on their hands, is well aware of the box office history-making power of the tween demographic. That's why when looking at the preview or poster for Twilight, it's obvious Summit is counting on the fan base of the book to bring in the dollars. The marketing here is really focused on the 4th dangling box office carrot, the name and reputation of the book it's adapted from. There's no promotion here for any of the actors involved, and looking at them on the poster, you kind of think, okay, that's that one dude from Harry Potter, and I've seen her in some stuff, like maybe wasn't she the sister in Zathura and kind of at the end of Jumper? The reason for not getting a super mega well-known set of actors actually works here because the filmmakers don't want the audience, who we know are diehard fans of the book, to come in with preconceived expectations of the actors. The less familiar they are, the more they'll actually seem like the characters from the book come to life. Their names aren't mentioned anywhere in the advertising, because no one is going to see the movie for that reason. The director is Catherine Hardwicke. If you haven't heard of her, that's because she's only been directing about 5 years. Twilight is her 4th movie. The good news is that 3 out of those 4 deal with teenagers. And most importantly, aside from Twilight, they're mainly dramas. So hopefully here, she won't lose the emotions and characters behind the special effects. Helping her bring the book to reality is screenwriter Melissa Rosenberg. If you haven't heard of her either, that's because she's mainly been writing for TV shows over the last 15 years. The great news about that is a lot of the shows are youth and female centered. Her one and only feature film screenplay is the original Step Up. This is a rare behind-the-scenes combination here. A big-budget, soon-to-be blockbuster that is written and directed by women. Hollywood is a very male-dominated industry. Even Sex and the City was written and directed by a man. So it's great to see this being a reality here. Hopefully, the behind-the-scenes story of Twilight is a sign of more progress to come. Then there's the idea for Twilight. All in all, it isn't that revolutionary. It basically combines 2 concepts, star-crossed lovers, and sets it in a world where vampires exist. The story of star-crossed lovers has been a part of the human experience since a caveman from Tribe A and a cave girl from Tribe B fell in love. Stephanie Meyer says the inspiration for the story came in a dream. There's a good chance that that dream was the result of a Buffy the Vampire Slayer marathon that Stephanie had watched the night before. The similarities are undeniable. Buffy is a human woman and she falls in love with Angel, a vampire. What makes things interesting here is that Buffy is a slayer and her destiny is to kill any and all vampires, including the one she loves. Now calm down, I'm not saying the idea of Twilight is a ripoff of Buffy, it's just simply inspired by it. There's nothing wrong with that. Actually, it's a good thing. The challenge of storytelling is to find a rejuvenating, exciting way to tell the same old tired stories. Calling Twilight a ripoff is like calling every story about lovers from different sides of the tracks unoriginal. That would be like saying Romeo and Juliet is a ripoff of Sir Lancelot and Guinevere, which would have had to have been stolen from the real-life romance of Mark Antony and Cleopatra, which mirrors the story of Paris of Troy and Helen of Sparta in Greek mythology. They're all the same basic stories, but told in different times to different cultures. The key is that they contain the same themes, messages, characters, emotions, and drama. As long as there are humans, these stories will always need to be told because we're always living them, and we're always seeking to understand them. The key is to make them relevant for the society and time. There's basically this invisible force, an archetype of star-crossed love, which must be interpreted by each culture. In the modern world, the preferred medium used to explore and share these stories is cinema. This ever-changing mask has looked like Jack and Rose aboard the Titanic, Johnny and Baby in Dirty Dancing, Danny and Sandy in Grease, and before that it was Maria and Tony in West Side Story. It's just like the title of Joseph Campbell's most popular book, The Hero with 1,000 Faces. The basic idea being that no matter what the hero of a story looks like, who the person is, and what culture they come from, at its core, it's a human journey, and it always has the same elements. So let's try to find these elements and the structure of Twilight in the preview. Bella drops her apple in the cafeteria, where a dude with crazy mad hacky sack skills stops it from hitting the floor. After school, she notices the same guy giving her an obsessive stalker stare. Just then, a van goes out of control and looks like Bella's going to be smashed between the cars, but the hacky sack stalker saves her using superhuman powers. Now she's got a crush on him, so she invites him over, tells him she's not afraid of his superpowers, and he takes her into the forest for some tree climbing. After jumping around for a while, they have a heart-to-heart talk about their feelings for each other, and lay down on the grass and look into each other's eyes, which means they're in love. Now they hang out all the time, go dancing, get romantic, and eventually kiss. Things are great until some guy gets mysteriously killed. Authorities think it's an animal attack, but Bella and Edward suspect it's other vampires. And that's confirmed when they meet up with this guy, who looks like he tried out for the understudy role of Legolas from Lord of the Rings, and never got a call back for the Sean William Scott character in Dukes of Hazzard. He's the leader of a band of not-so-nice vampires, and actually seems kind of like a pervert. All he wants to do is smell Bella's hair and make this face. Bella's freaked out by that, and Edward takes her away. The perv gives chase. Seriously, that sniffing is more disturbing than being a vampire. If you want to stop him, don't call a vampire slayer, call Dateline NBC to catch a predator. And speaking of Dateline, let's ask this creepy question that no one wants to bring up. If Edward has been 17 since the 1920s, that means he's around 90 years old. And, as we all know, physical age and mental age are totally different, so technically, isn't Edward a little too old to be falling in love with a girl 70 years younger than him? However, if his mentality matches his 17-year-old body, how depressing is that? In 80 years of experiencing life, he hasn't mentally and spiritually grown up or evolved. Maybe it's explained in the book. Maybe there's some argument that the vampires can sense the age of someone's soul, and that's what they're really attracted to. Or maybe she's the reincarnation of his soulmate from 60 years ago. Or maybe it really is time to call Dateline. So after walking through a smoke machine created mist as if they're in a music video, they chase Bella and Edward down to a library of some kind and have a fight to the death. I haven't read the book, so there's obviously a lot more to this, but based on the preview, it's a pretty standard structure. Now, the major questions and concerns die-hard fans of the novel are having is, will it honor the original vision and stay faithful? The answer always seems to be something like this. Drama is more important than details. A screenplay translates to the screen at 1 page per minute. Twilight is almost 500 pages long, so that means a lot of cutting and condensing. The first thing to go will be the inner thoughts of the main character. The challenge of movie making is to show physically what's going on mentally. So that means there will either be a voiceover or Bella will be sharing her thoughts with Edward or a friend type character not seen in the preview here. Next, and most importantly, there needs to be conflict in a movie. So expect the struggle between Bella, Edward, and the sniffing vampire perv to be the center of that. If structured correctly, this conflict should start around 20 or 30 minutes into the movie. If it takes longer, let's say 60 minutes, that means there will be a lot of time devoted to Bella and Edward falling in love and being all mushy gooey-eyed romantic, which reportedly is a lot of what goes on in the book, the self-obsession of first love. And expect a Gossip Girl, The Hills, Beverly Hills 90210, MTV-inspired soundtrack kicking in every 4 to 5 minutes. The ending will be more than likely the same as the book, since there are already 3 sequels, which means Twilight will leave the door open for the next movie. movie. Twilight also has a similarity to this past summer's Wanted, with the main roles reversed. In Wanted, Angelina Jolie is the tough, sexy, mysterious, knowledgeable woman, confident with who she is, and the guy is the character of Growth, who's stuck in his ordinary world. This seems to be a standard male fantasy, meeting a hot, tough, sexy woman, and at the same time, changing your life and becoming an action hero. This is fine, because stories are a way for humans to explore their desires, wishes, and dreams. But most of the big-budget major summer blockbusters deal with the dreams of boys and men. So in relation to the Twilight audience age demographic, what is it that girls want? What do they dream of? Apparently, they just want to fall in love. They want the Cinderella, Prince Charming, star-crossed lover's dream to become a reality, to be taken out of their boring life by a larger-than-life, break-all-the-rules boy. Whether it's Dirty Dancing, Titanic, or Romeo and Juliet, they want to defy society's rules and follow their hearts. But is there something more to life than just some dude coming in and sweeping a girl off of her feet? Or is the dream about experiencing the overpowering feelings of first love enough of a goal? After all, it seems to be a rite of passage, a part of basic human experience that everyone wants and needs to go through. There's an interesting tagline here in the preview that goes, "When you can live forever, what do you live for?" That's a really deep question for what seems to be a really light teenage fantasy vampire soap opera. But it's a great question because the material allows it to be asked. Once death is taken out of the picture, doesn't life lose a little bit of its flavor? The great thing about expiration dates is that it forces you to enjoy things before they perish. I want this movie to be really amazing. I want it to be the female Star Wars, a story about a girl that goes on an amazing life-changing journey that reveals her destiny and starts her on her way to becoming a fully empowered woman. I want Edward to be a tortured soul who's fallen in love many times before and watched those he's loved die because they got older as he stayed the same. It would be great if he was a complex character that didn't want to fall in love, because just as great as it is to fall in love, it's even harder to lose that love. And I really want him to have some wisdom about being immortal and living life and loving. But the movie is only as great as the screenplay, and the screenplay is only as good as the source material, in this case, the novel. And it seems that while this book is entertaining, it's basically a harlequin romance novel with vampires aimed at the Cinderella dreams of teenage girls. Here's a sample of overly romantic and pretty cheesy Jerry Maguire "You Complete Me" dialogue.
I don't know how long I've waited for you.
I'd rather die than to stay away from you.
I'll do whatever it takes to make you safe again. You are my life now.
And what's with all the whispering and staring into the distance? Way too overly dramatic and serious. No matter the medium, story has a great power. It can entertain, but it can also explore and inform us about the human experience. It's not just a place to share our dreams, but it's also a place to seek knowledge. Maybe I'm taking this way too seriously. Maybe this is just a nice escapist female fantasy about meeting Prince Charming, about falling so totally in love that nothing else matters. After all, head and heart don't always agree, and it's a lot more fun to listen to your heart and swim in this sea of emotions, especially if they're created by the chemistry between first love soulmates. In creating this vampire story, Stephenie Meyer has made a few changes to the classical vampire legend regarding their powers. I think this one's the most important. They don't have fangs. That means they don't have any bite. In classical vampire stories, the scar of a vampire bite means that the human being has been changed. Here, while promising us an exploration of a mature idea, what a person's purpose is if they can live forever, the movie ends up like a fangless vampire. We leave the theater with no mark, unchanged, the same going out as we were going in. The movie preview critic rates Twilight separately for fans of the books and movie audiences that have no idea what this is about. For the Twilight faithful, this is worthy of big screen viewing. It's always exciting to see a big screen version of your favorite book. See it at regular price with other Twilight fans, preferably at a midnight showing. Your reaction when seeing the preview is, "Holy f***ing shit, that looks awesome." You're gonna see it because you know what you're getting. For regular moviegoers, this is unworthy of big screen viewing. See it as a rental. The studio is definitely making it for the big box office payday that's sure to occur. It's going to be predictable and cliche, it'll have two-dimensional bad guys, and unfortunately it isn't that different from similar movies that have come out before. And it's a youthified take on the classic vampire story. Just take the roles normally given to adults and replace them with teenagers. And now it's time for Twilight's place in movie history! It won't be as good as other vampire movies with action and character like The Lost Boys, Interview with a Vampire, Underworld, Blade, and Buffy the Vampire Slayer. In terms of star-crossed lovers, it won't be better than West Side Story, Grease, Dirty Dancing, Titanic, The Notebook, Pretty in Pink, or even Crazy Beautiful. And in terms of movies with a strong girl power female element, it won't be as good as Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, Sex and the City, or even The House Bunny, because it doesn't really seem to be concerned with those issues. But it should be better than The Craft, The Covenant, Lost Boys 2: The Tribe, Teen Wolf 2, Cursed, Ginger Snaps 2, Little Witches, and A Cinderella Story. And that's Twilight's place in movie history! So until next time, choose your movies wisely, and as always,
Long live good movies!